This is episode 438 of working on this steam hammer. Now, we put this shaft back in yesterday, squeezed our graphite gland packing inside of the bottom of the cylinder, but we then noticed that it was a little bit too tight. Step one, troubleshoot. So I'm gonna try and loosen off this gland a little bit and see if we can get it squarer, because I think it's bound up. You know what I did, Jamie? I just spun it round 180 degrees so that this was in line, and now it goes all the way down. Hey, you know what would be cool? See if we can get it to lift up under air pressure.
What do you mean, how?
We have ourselves a threaded hole here. We have 100 PSI. The question is, do we have enough volume, and is there little enough leakage that it would actually lift it? Let's see what we can do. Jamie, can you imagine? We open up the air pressure and just shoot the ram all the way out to the cylinder. Straight through the ceiling. There's no chance that happens, but you know, a boy can dream. It did just work out that there's no way this is gonna work. It's just gonna escape out of the back valve. But anyway. Sounds cool, but nothing happens. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Really appreciate it. Bye. All right, just got some very helpful advice from the great and talented Mr. John Nicholson. Context. This is the gentleman that now owns and runs Massey Forging. The man knows a thing or two or three about power hammers, and he just given me some advice on what our next steps should be in regards to fitting this ram tup to this piston. Effectively, I have been warned to be careful about how this stuff fits and find out whether it's going to fit right, or whether the fact that we have ground down about kind of 2 inches worth of this taper means that it's not going to stick in here. Because if, when this was big before this shaft got ground down, the bulk of the contact was happening in this bigger area and not down there, it could be that it's loose. But if the tapers match up perfectly fine, it should still be fine. It's just there'd be 30% less contact with the taper that's in there. Remember, this is held to that through this kind of 1 degree taper forced in. A little blue on her. What are we going to say, about 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch from fully at the bottom of the taper. Hiya! Contact all the way down there.
What we're saying is barely no contact at all.
What does that mean? Barely no contact? Barely any contact?
Well, yeah, there's barely no contact.
Huh. You mean barely any contact?
Well, no, there's barely no contact.
Barely no contact means there's a lot of contact. Are you trying to say there's a... What is the use of language you're trying, like... You're gonna help me here, Jamie.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I'm saying it's barely touching.
Oh, so the opposite of barely no contact. This time around we're about 1.5 millimeters away. If you're watching this with a hobby or passion that you want to take to the next level, you want to start selling your creations and eventually make a living from the work that you do, you're going to need a website, and you're going to need for it to be a good one that takes as little time away from your truly productive work as possible. And you can do that with today's sponsor, which is Squarespace. It's a website building platform that I've used for coming up on a decade. Now check this out. We recently went ahead and sold 500 nails. Remember that video, that live stream? We see there was a little bit of an issue. How many short did I do, Jamie?
4.
4 short, which means that one unlucky customer was shortchanged 4 nails. Now, mistakes happen when you run into business, but being able to efficiently make them right for your customer is oh so important. So look how easy it is. I search for his name. It's this guy here. He was shortchanged by £3.60 on his order, so I'm gonna issue a refund for a good deal more for the annoyance, and that refund is issued. To ship those nails, we integrated with one of their approved third-party integrations to a shipping service that made it a one-click operation. We can integrate with our bookkeeping software, and you can experience all of this and how powerful Squarespace is by going to squarespace.com/forge, where you'll get a 2-week free trial. Test it out, see if you love it. Code FORGE at checkout will get you 10% off your first purchase, and that includes your domain purchase. We're so grateful for their sponsorship. Let's get back to the video. What I've been doing now is checking the contact between this and that. We may have to go more in depth on this in the future because the grinding of the shaft has shortened the amount of friction that we get between this taper and that hole. And so if these 2 pieces are coming loose in the future, we've got a little bit of a strategy, a potential solution for fixing that. But for now, we can jam this puppy back in there, and then I think we have a look up here. All right, keep your fingers and toes well clear, folks. Okay. All right, up we go. Ta-da. Now, gaskets. Remember we bought this bad boy right here? Well, didn't tell you. I also bought something even better. And here, there's a power of CNC. Hallelujah. That's going to be so much better than anything I could have done. Let's pray they line up. Oh, lovely. Doesn't get past the piston rings. Kidding me.
We'll put it on first and then put the piston thing on top.
I'm very appreciative that one of us here has some sort of brain power. You know what else I should do? Take this thing out.
Right.
Yeah, the rope and the nuts. Could you imagine? Heavy. Oh, yes. Okay, now there's piston rings that need closing. Right, what's rule number 1, Jamie? Don't stab yourself in the eye with the screwdriver.
I thought you were going to say don't talk about Fight Club.
Oh. How am I going to pinch those piston rings, guys? Maybe I should have assembled it upside down? But then how would I get it on top without it falling out?
What, like putting a glass of water on a table upside down?
It's exactly what I would need to do.
Isn't there a magic trick to do that? You could just wash that and use the same concept.
It's like I need a big Jubilee clip. A big Jubilee clip! I'm gonna be right back. I'm going up to the office. 2 Jubilee clips.
It's still not big enough.
You don't think?
Is it not big enough?
No. Well, we can use it as inspiration. Woo! It worked! Look at that, it's down. There's one long bolt. Maybe. Righto, before this thing gets put together anymore, we have to make the other side match this. More wire wheeling is required. I've made headway here, getting the bulk of it off. It's time to get this bottom die cut. Now, there are some important things that we need to consider, which is 1, I want the top and bottom dies to be the exact same width from front to back. This is sawn material, so it's cut with a 3mm tolerance. And so of course, it's not perfectly square, and that's completely normal. So you'll see that we're currently about 5 or 6mm, about a 1/4 of an inch proud on this side. So we've got a lot of material to take off there. The entire block needs to be squared, but also I need to make sure that this block sits perfectly in the middle, this way and that way, to that die. And what's going to be crucial for that is where exactly we cut this in a dovetail. It's less critical over here, because of course, once that's cut, we're gonna put a key in this dead space. We can make the key fit after the fact, like we did up here, easy peasy lemon squeezy. But if this is off relative to that, that's not going to be centered. And we must remember that despite our best efforts to cut this dovetail in as straight a line as possible to this base, i.e. not like that, not like that, there is so much room for misalignment. Remember, this frame is just installed with 4 bolts on rails. The whole thing could be twisted. This top or ram head was an absolute mess with no square, nothing on it, which means that that die might not be square to the frame. The frame might not be square. There is absolutely nothing to go on that is perfectly square, but we need the dies to line up just right, and we can't have any misalignment between these 2 contacting surfaces. Any sort of misalignment is going to make these twisting forces when the hammer strikes. Twisting forces when the hammer strikes is going to cause excess wear on these guides. It's going to cause excess stress on this piston rod. The result is it wears the cylinder more, though this machine ultimately is just a lot of force slapping steel together. If it's not done right, that huge amount of force is going to be used to break itself apart. So making this bottom die is a very, very critical step. And with that, we're going to take to the Bridgeport and I'm going to start squaring this block. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. That's a big, beautiful block of squared steel. We now have to cut some dovetails in it. All of this has to go away. Now you might ask yourself the same question that I asked myself, which is, how on earth do you calculate exactly where to put your dovetails? It's not like I can just come across here with a ruler and give it a measure, because the fact that there is a radius here is a big deal to any datum to reference from. Even just a chamfer would change things by a millimeter or two, let alone the fact that we have radii at the bottom. So as the die block needs to sit perfectly centered, how do we find a reliable datum? Here is what I'm going for. This bit of round bar touches in two places that has nothing to do with any radii in the dovetail design. Touches on the base, touches on the side. And this will give us some sort of a datum to work off of. The way this bar is set up, it is 6 millimeters off the edge of the top die. And so I took to the pen and paper in order to do some sketches that make me make heads or tails of it. And when we stop thinking about the inside corner of the dovetail, but we think about the outside for the die, I think that we need an offset of 11.35 millimeters. And that'll be for when this gets moved to the outside corner of the male dovetail, relative to the far outside edge of the side of the dovetail. Goodness, I have no idea if any of this makes sense to you. It hardly makes sense to me. Now, while I've been at the mill, Jamie has been cleaning everything. Right, we just got to twist the head on the Bridgeport, start cutting dovetails. But I'm gonna jump in, help Jamie with some of this cleaning, get stuck in there. Oh, look at those parts, so fresh. This little tag restored to its former beauty. Oh yes! This, at some point in time, was property of Jarrow Metal Industries Limited. Who knows if they're still ticking. Have a look at how good this is looking. Little coat of machine oil on it. Oof, lovely work, Jamie. Have.
It's looking pucker.
Isn't it just?
And I've had a wash, and I still look like this.
You haven't had a wash.
I have had a wash.
No, I don't believe you.
I'm just going to wait to have a proper wash when I get home, because it's not coming off.
Right, here's the deal. I'll buy Jamie some soap. If you leave a like on the video, I'm getting back to machining. No, you're not seeing double. That's a second block of steel. It's a long story, and it's probably funnier if you just make it up in your head. But I got a couple of days more machining to do. All right, so the dovetails. I had tried to do all my maths here on paper, and I decided it was actually getting a little bit too confusing for me. So I took to the computer, and that was actually incredibly helpful, because what you'll see is, if you go real close right here, you'll see that that round bar actually doesn't contact in the same place on the inside as it does the outside of that angle for the dovetail. There's actually an offset of about 6 millimeters. This paper is drawn to scale. And so going to the computer allowed me to plot absolutely everything. I did it in Adobe Illustrator, because my 12-year-old computer won't run CAD, and I was able to determine all of the offsets I needed on both sides of the dovetail, so I knew exactly what we had to do with the block. So I'm bloody crossing my fingers that after all this work, we've made it right. All right, folks, the finished bottom die block. Get some. Jamie, what do you think the odds are that this actually works first time and I don't need to machine on it again?
Well, hopefully 100%, because you spent bloody ages on it.
That is the first time that you have ever had faith in me.
No, I'm just saying you spent a lot of time on it, so surely you did it right.
Thank you, Jamie. All right, let's go have a look. Wait, actually first, detour. Jamie, do you see all of the metal chips? Get down there, have a look at this. It's an ocean of 4140 chips. This is very heavy. Whatever you're doing, this is very heavy. I'm running out of strength over here. You know we have to make some Damascus steel out of that stuff. Come on, guys. All right. Ow, ow, my finger's stuck.
Do you want me to kick it?
No, don't you dare. Look at it! It looks so pretty and clean. Right. Pretty please be square with that top die. Oh! We are out of alignment by about 2 millimeters. They're perfectly in line straight up and down here. And over there, that is the offset. And that is exactly what I was talking about earlier. The mishmash of all the different things and all the tolerances that I'm not smart enough to have figured out a way to calculate for in advance has now shown me what we need to adjust to make those two things line up perfectly. I will say though, check this. Oh, it's bang on. 43 millimeters. 43 millimeters, it's perfectly in line this way. Thank you for powerful computing, and thank you for watching this video and allowing us to embark on this ridiculous project. Please go support our sponsor Squarespace by building a website with them. I appreciate you all very much. Bye-bye.